Good morning, Hobbits. Today I want to clarify for you some questions that I've been seeing on your sheets and some information that I've learned about Tolkien. And I also want to briefly explain to you today's assignment too. So yesterday you saw the Hobbits going through the Old Forest, and they encountered some problems with Old Man Willow, who is a mysterious sort of character that's a tree that entrapped Pippin and Merry. And then you had this hero come along named Tom Bombadil, who is one of the most interesting characters in Tolkien's work. And you're going to learn more about him today as the Hobbits travel to go back to his house. So as I've been reading your answers, there are a couple of things that I wanted to address to hopefully help you better understand the book. So first thing I noticed is about a fourth of you have been referring to Sam as a she. And Sam is actually a male, not a female, so you should be using the pronoun he or him for Sam. So that's one thing that I noticed. Second, I know that there's sometimes some confusion about the Dark Lord, and he has given many names, and that can get confusing. So the Dark Lord can be referred to as the Dark Power sometimes, so sometimes you see it that way. His official name is Sauron. So you might see that reference. And that's kind of tricky too because Sauron is similar to the name Saruman, who is the chief wizard, but they are not the same person. Okay, so Sauron is the one who created the ring. He's also sometimes referred to as the Eye, okay, so, or the Dark Power, I think I already said that, Dark Lord. So you're going to see various names for him. And the best parallel I can make to that, and maybe why Tolkien did that too, is Tolkien was a Christian, so he would have believed in God and the devil. And I think that, you know, when we see in our culture, if you think of the word devil, you think that he also has many other names like Satan, Lucifer, the Dark Prince, Beelzebub, etc. So that's probably why the Dark Lord in Tolkien's book, who is similar to a devil figure, has multiple names. So that's probably what's going on there. In terms of the ring has multiple powers, as we have seen now too. So it can make you invisible. We know that. That was the first thing that we came across. It can shrink and expand or feel heavier or lighter at times to get away from its person that it's with. Okay, maybe slip off of their finger and disappear or go on to the next person, etc. It also seems to have power over your mind, and it seems to make your whole focus on the ring, so that eventually the ring is trying to get back to its master. And this is personification, because the ring is actually made to seem like a character, like it makes choices, like it chooses to leave you, or it chooses to do this, or become bigger or smaller or heavier or lighter. So there's definitely personification going on, and the ring is given many different qualities like that. And we'll see more from the ring as we go on. There's definitely also evidence that it corrupts people. It wants to make you feel powerful and wants to make you use it more, but use it for evil purposes, like Gollum used it for evil purposes, like to steal off of other people or to eavesdrop. So we saw that as well. A few of you had asked me where names come from for the characters, and I found some really cool information. So I want to thank you guys because some of your questions have been really awesome, and they're not things that I've been asked before or that I've researched out before, and I've actually learned a great deal from you. So thank you for asking those questions, and I wouldn't have researched those things if you hadn't asked. So I think Kelly had asked me about where do the names come from. So we have these weird names like Frodo and Odo and Samwise, and where do these come from? So I'm going to go through just a couple. I found a lot of awesome information, but a lot of them come from languages that Tolkien studied. We know that he was a linguist. We know that he taught different languages as a college professor. We know that he could speak many different languages. So Frodo actually was the name of a Danish king. It was a little bit different. It was Frodi with an I instead of Frodo, but we could probably assume that Tolkien knew Danish. He would have known these tales, and that may be where Frodo came from. Gandalf, the Old Norse word for Gandalf is wand elf, and Gandalf carries a staff, sort of like a wand, that has magical powers. He's not an elf, but he does have some similarities to elves, so that may be where Tolkien got the idea for his name. The other one, Samwise Gamgee, is said to be named after a real person, actually a doctor that lived during Tolkien's time. Not someone that Tolkien knew really well, but someone who he respected. And Sam is very kind. He's always trying to help people. And this man's name was not Samwise, but Samson, and his last name was Gamgee. And he developed a type of gauze that could be put over someone's wound to prevent it from getting infected. And obviously during World War I and during this time where they didn't have a lot of medicine and people were getting sepsis or infections and dying from that, this was a major invention that was very helpful to people. And it was actually called Gamgee gauze, and it would go over the wound. So that's kind of interesting. And there's another little tidbit to that, but I'll save that because that actually happens at the end of the book and I don't want to give away too much. But there's evidence that maybe Sam Wise was named after Samson Gamgee, who was a real doctor. Okay, so that's something kind of cool that I learned as well. Someone asked me, and I can't remember who, I'm sorry, but someone asked me, where did the idea for the ring come from? So there's a couple different theories on that. Tolkien had read some fairy tales that had rings like that in them, but there's more evidence recently coming out that Tolkien was called to decipher some Roman writing on the outside of a gold ring that was found out in a field before he wrote The Lord of the Rings. And so maybe when he looked at that ring and it's actually a gold ring and it has Roman writing along the outside, it doesn't look like the writing that he writes about in his book, but it's a similar idea. There's some evidence that perhaps after helping archaeologists study that ring, that gave him the idea to use the ring as a symbol of how power can corrupt you throughout the rest of the book. So that may be where it came from. I can't prove that 100%, but it's definitely very interesting that he was studying a ring that looked much like the one in the book that he writes about. Okay, today I want to talk to you about how to do the assignment. Those were a few questions that some of you had asked me, and I'll try to answer some more later on. So today's assignment is going to focus actually on Tom Bombadil and his wife or spouse, Goldberry. You haven't met much of her yet, but you've seen Tom Bombadil. And Tom Bombadil is often thought by many scholars to be a godlike figure. And there's a lot of debate about it. You know, what kind of god is he? Is he a god of nature? Is he a god, like a god elf that was there before everybody else that Tolkien had written about in other stories? And there's a lot of debate on that. But I think that he is definitely godlike and that he has powers that other creatures don't have. He's not a wizard. He's not a hobbit. He's not an elf. He's not an orc. So what is he? This is a big debate among Tolkien scholars. So today I want you to find evidence that Tom Bombadil is a godlike character. And you can find lots of it throughout the whole chapter that you're reading in chapter 7. And so I'm going to show you that assignment here next so you know how to do that. Okay. So this is just a chart that I created for you. So it says evidence Tom Bombadil is a godlike character. It's worth 8 points. So you don't have to do anything in this column and just number them. In this column, you want to put quotes from the book. Make sure you include a tag. So for example, something like Tolkien writes, comma, put your quote, type something in there. I'm just going to put normal or random letters for right now. Then you want to put your end quote, and then you want to put the page number in. So for example, 107 or something like that, and then period after it. Okay. You guys are actually further ahead than that. And then over here, you are going to explain how that quote supports that Tom is a godlike character with complete sentences. So you want to do that over here. And you're going to put your explanation in this column. And you want to do 4 quotes, 4 explanations. And again, you should be able to find lots of those based upon what's in the book. Also, there may be some vocabulary. We haven't done much vocabulary lately. I've been trying to focus on the reading and comprehension. So if you see some words that you come across that you don't know, which you should, I would like you to include their definition and a picture. And I just, Googled a picture, but I made sure it matched the definition before I just Googled any picture. So you want to put your word, definition, and then picture here. And I did flagstone rushes. These are things in Tom Bombadil's house and Goldberry's house that you may not have known what they were. So you want to pick 3 more things and include definitions and pictures. If it's an abstract idea, you don't have to include a picture. Like if it's something that's not a noun or not an item, you don't have to do that. Okay, and then the rest are just some questions about the chapter that are either multiple choice. No, wait, sorry. They're just short answer this time. So you want to use complete sentences. I didn't actually put any multiple choice questions in here, so I'm going to fix that right now. And there are just a few because most of what I want you to do is focus on Tom's character and some vocab. And then if you have any questions for me, you can list those at the bottom. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy reading about Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. They're 2 of my favorite characters. It was pretty sad that they didn't make it into Peter Jackson's movie because I really like them and they're really interesting and very different from other characters. But you're going to get to at least read about them and maybe think in your mind, if you could have chosen actors to play, or an actor for Tom Bombadil, an actress for Goldberry, who would you have chosen to play them? I might put that out as a survey question today because I'm kind of curious. All right. Enjoy meeting Tom and Goldberry, and have a great day, everybody.